Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Link, and in today's video, we're going to be giving you the rundown for the Blood Death Knight in Dungeons and Mythic Plus. It's been about 2 weeks since the game came out. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying it. I've been loving the Death Knight. And basically, we're going to be going over the best stats, the best talents, and the rotation with some gameplay along the way for you guys. Now, starting off with the stat priority for Blood Death Knight, it's going to be Haste is the very best stat, then Crit / Mastery, and then Verse is very bottom. Now, the reason Haste is our #1 stat is because it's going to give us more abilities. It's going to generate more runic power because we're using more abilities. We're going to be able to get more blood shields. We're going to be able to do more death strikes. Basically, Haste is just going to be super, super good. Now, our Mastery is actually pretty good. Each time you heal yourself with a death strike, my current Mastery is 27%. So I gain 27% of the amount healed as a physical damage absorption shield, and it also increases my attack power by 13.5%. The reason that crit is third on our priority list is mainly just because it only increases your chance to crit with your attacks, obviously, but also it does give you parry chance, so that is actually a pretty good stat to have. And versatility is basically just, versatility just increases your healing and your damage done overall, but the other stats are actually a lot more valuable for Blood Death Knight. And just as a side note, for your weapon enchant from the engraving, make sure you use Rune of the Fallen Crusader, because that's going to give you a chance to heal for 6% of your max health and also increase your total strength by about 15% for the next 15 seconds. Alright guys, we're going to be going over the Mythic Plus talents for the Blood Death Knight. If you guys don't already know, anything new for you guys is going to be an ability called Blinding Sleet. This used to be a PvP ability, so we're going to be picking that up. I'm going to show you guys that right here. Make sure we get our interrupt. This is basically like a frontal cone that does a disorient for 5 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown, and does a slow. So this is going to be a really good ability for us, especially in Mythic Plus. That is something brand new, and then once we get to the bottom, you guys will see this, but we're definitely going to be picking up Abomination Limb, which, if you guys don't know, was a Shadowlands ability. Really good ability, especially for tanking. We start with Death Strike. We're going to want that. Anti-Magic Shell is just a huge cooldown for Blood Death Knight. Make sure we upgrade our barrier. We're going to want Improved Death Strike. We're going to want Veteran of War, which gives us 20% stamina. Obviously, that's going to be really good for pretty much any tank. Make sure we get Permafrost. A lot of this stuff, you guys have played Blood Death Knight before. You already know what it is. Icebound Fortitude. That used to be just every SPAC had it. Now it's a talent in our Death Knight tree. Make sure we get our crits chance. Just a nice little buff. Next, we're going to go to Gloom Ward, which gives us a 15% more effective on our absorbs, which is from death striking. Next, we're going to be getting Runic Attenuation. I think that's what it's called. Attacks have a chance to generate 5 runic power, so that's going to be a good little passive pickup. A lot of these are just passives that make our abilities better. You guys probably already know all of this, but Raise Dead, obviously to start. Hard Strike hits up 3 additional enemies while you remain in your Death and Decay. So this is going to be something that's kind of new with Death Knight and Dragonflight, is that you want to be standing in your Death and Decay as much as possible, because of a lot of our talents and our new abilities are going to do way more damage, and we're going to have way more damage inside of our Death and Decay. These ones really aren't that big of a deal. This one's good though. Your diseases have a chance to weaken enemy, causing your attacks against them to do 6% increased damage for 5 seconds. So that's actually pretty cool. We're actually going to skip over Clenching Grasp and go with Might of Thesaurian. Increases our strength by 2%. Nice little passive buff. Unholy Endurance is going to increase the duration of your Lichborn by 2 seconds. And while active damage taken is reduced 15%. So if you guys know what Lichborn is, it's a 2-minute cooldown that gives you increased leech, and then like if you're stunned, feared, charmed, any of that, takes you out of that. Something the Death Knights have had for pretty much ever. Unholy Ground, this is something that's huge for Death and Decay. We're going to have 5% haste buff when you're inside of your Death and Decay. If you guys don't already know, haste is the best stat for Death Knight currently, so that's really good actually. So make sure you're standing inside of your Death and Decay. Death's Echo, this is going to be also something good for Death and Decay, and our Death Grip. It's going to give us an extra charge of both, and our Sprint Death's Advance. So that's a good passive, especially for Blood, or just Death Knight in general, because they don't always have the best mobility compared to a lot of other classes. This is just going to give us 10% effectiveness on Rune Forging, just your weapon enchant. This is going to be something that's actually pretty good. Two in this for sure. Damage taken below 30% is reduced by 35%. So if you get close to dying, you just take a lot less damage. We'll switch over here. Insidious Chill. Auto attacks reduce the target's auto attack speed by 5% for 30 seconds. Stacks up to 4 times. That's good. Icy Talons. If you guys have ever played Death Knight, you know what Icy Talons is. That's going to be an actually really good passive ability. We want to get Empowered Rune Weapon. This is our basically one of our biggest 2-minute cooldowns that we have. It just increases our haste by 15%, generates runic power. It's really good. We're gonna go on and put 2 into Rune Mastery. That way we can get our Abomination Limb. This is gonna give us consuming a rune has a chance to grant strength by 3% for 8 seconds. You want to put 2 into that. That way we pick our last talent. And that's basically everything we're gonna want. Alright guys, next we're going to be going over our blood talent tree for Mythic Plus. I'm not going to go over every single talent because most of these are just staple blood abilities, but a lot of them are new and some of them are old. Like Blood Boil, Heart Strike, these are our main basically abilities. Vampiric Blood, old DK ability. We're going to make sure that we get we're going to pick here, we're going to get Crimson Scourge, we're going to improve Heart Strike, just increases damage. Death's Caress is like a ranged ability that puts our diseases on enemies and also gives you some charges of Bone Shield. That's pretty cool. Hemostasis, another thing that Death Knight's had forever. Relish in the Blood. This is going to heal you when you activate Death and Decay and give you some runic power per Bone Shield you have active. Rapid Decomp, Blood Plague, and Death and Decay deal damage 18% more often. So it's just going to make your dots deal damage 18% more often. Right? Makes sense. And you're also going to get some more increased leech from those abilities. Coagulopathy. Enemies affected by Blood Plague take increased damage, basically, from your Death Strike. Bloodworms. If you guys have played Blood Decay ever in your entire life, you already know what that is. This is just going to give us Death Strike, more healing, and 10% leech for 8 seconds. We're going to make sure we want Dancing Rune Weapon. Make sure you pick that up. It's one of our main defensive abilities. I guess offensive too, if you want to put it that way. But it also gives you 4% parry chance when it's active. We're going to make sure we get this talent. And this talent right here, this is going to give you an extra Dancing Rune Weapon and increases duration. So we're going to have 2 of those. And also the Dancing Rune Weapon will generate 5 Bone Shield charges when activated. And when a charge is consumed, the cooldown of Dancing Rune Weapon is reduced. So we're going to be using Rune Weapon a lot more often because we're going to be spending bone charges, obviously. Next, we're going to go over here to, we want Heartbreaker. Heart Strike generates 1 additional runic power per target hit. So obviously in Mythic Plus or any AoE situation, that's going to be really good. Improve Bone Shield. Haste is our best stat. So Bone Shield increases haste by 10%. We definitely want that. Leeching Strikes. Yeah, it gives you health. It leeches. Blood Tap. A lot of Blood Death Knights. You guys already know what this is. It just consumes essence around you, generates 1 rune. And we're going to have 2 charges of this on a 1-minute cooldown. So pretty good ability here. We're going to switch over to Tombstone. This is actually a pretty cool ability on a 1-minute cooldown, so we can use this pretty often. It consumes 5 Bone Shield charges, and for each one consumed, it gives you 6 runic power and absorbs damage equal to 6% of your max health for 8 seconds. So, you know, if you wanted to combine this perhaps with Vampiric Blood, it's going to increase your max HP by 30%, and then you activate this, you're going to get a lot more absorb damage because your HP will be a lot higher, right? Makes sense. So that's a pretty cool little thing you could use together. Shattering Bone. When Bone Shield's consumed, it will shatter, dealing damage to all nearby enemies. Again, this is good for Mythic Plus. And then while you're inside of Death and Decay, the damage is tripled. So that's why we're always going to want to be inside Death and Decay. Really good ability. We're not going to be taking Gorfine's Grasp just because we have a Bomb Limb now. We don't really need it anymore. I mean, maybe in some situations. I don't think we're ever going to need it, personally. I'm never probably going to ever be using it. Sanguine Ground, you deal 5% more damage and receive 5% more healing while you're in Death and Decay, so make sure you're always inside of your Death and Decay whenever it's up. Our last 3 points are going to be into Red Thirst, reduces the cooldown on Vampiric Blood by 2 seconds per 10 runic power. Blood Shield duration increased by 2 seconds, absorbs 20% more damage, super good. And Bloodshot, while Blood Shield is active, you deal 25% increased physical damage. And that is going to be our talents for the Blood Death Knight. Alright guys, so very quickly I'm going to go over our defensive abilities for Blood Death Knight. When we use our Mirror Rend, that's going to give us our Bone Shield charges, and that's going to give us our increased armor and haste. So that's kind of our main defensive is Bone Shield. With our Mastery, our Death Strike, every time we use it, it's going to heal us and also give us that Absorb Shield. So that's basically our second, if you want to call it a defensive ability. Anti-magic shell is for magic damage. Icebound fortitude is for all damage and removes stuns, or you can use it while you're stunned and get out of a stun. Vamp blood gives us our 30% max HP boost and increases our healing and absorbs received. Dancing rune weapon is those 2 rune weapons, and then it's going to give us also the 40% parry chance. And Lichborn now and gives us the the leech by 10% and reduces damage taken by 15%. And last but not least, Tombstone. This is going to be absorbing 5 of our bone shields, like I was saying earlier, but it also gives us 6 runic power per bone shield and absorb damage equal to our max health. So it's going to give us another absorb on us as a Blood Death Knight. If you guys want to consider the Empowered Rune Weapon and Blood Tap as a defensive, you definitely can, just because it gives you the 50% haste, which obviously makes it so we can attack a lot faster. It's going to generate our runic power, which means that we're going to be making more bone shields, we're going to be death striking more, we're going to just, in general, going to be doing a lot more damage, and it's actually going to make us take a lot less damage with our abilities. Same for the Blood Tap. So yeah, those are basically the defensives that we have. So basically, our rotation is going to be getting our Marrow Rend on the target. That way we're getting our 10 bone shields. We're going to be spending our runic power on our death strikes to heal us and giving us that absorb shield. We're going to be placing our death and decays, where we're going to be positioning the mobs or the boss, whatever it is. So we're going to be spending our runic power on death strikes, making sure we keep our bone shield up. Hard strike filler to make sure we're doing AoE damage. It's also giving us a lot of runic power for each additional enemy that's struck. And then whenever we're out of runes, say we're completely just nothing up and we can't do anything, that's when we're going to be using Empowered Rune or Blood Tap. That way we're getting a lot more abilities in. We're going to have a lot more generation, and we're going to be doing a lot more damage and being able to basically heal ourselves and shield ourselves a lot more often. And then in between, depending on the boss or the pull, whatever it is, that's when you're going to pick if you want to do magic absorb depending on the mob, or if you want to just boost your HP if you're going to take a lot of damage. If you're low, say you're at 10% health, if you pop Vamp Blood, it increases your max HP, which also increases the amount of health that you have at that time. So that's something to, just know while you're playing the Blood Death Knight. And yeah, guys, that's basically, we're just going to want a Heart Strike in between when we kind of have nothing going on or we need to generate some runic power. Blood Boil is our AoE that's going to spread our Blood Plague. And basically, whenever you pull something, you're going to want to pull with Death Grip or your Abomination Limb or Death Grip. It just depends, whatever you're fighting. If it's a boss, if it's, 2 mobs, 1 mob, it could be 10 mobs. Maybe your team you're running with pulls 3 packs on accident. That's padding around. But yeah, guys, that's basically just our rotation. With that being said, guys, that's everything for this Dragonflight Death Knight Mythic Plus build. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.